as people are listening to this, like, where's a good place for someone to start? Like, and I'm sure you work with so many people who are on this journey. And I always say to people, like, I don't think the real crisis we have in the world today is a crisis of habits and conditioning, because most people I know what they want to change or know who they want to be or how they want to change. They just can't make it through that path, right? They can't stick with it. So where's a good place for someone to start? If they're listening right now and they're saying, Dr. Will Cole, I can hear that I have a ton of those physiological and psychological challenges. I need to figure this out. Where does someone start?
I would first start with your headspace, because you do not have to be perfect, quote unquote. You don't have to have it all together to start making positive action in your life. And if you're waiting for the right time, it's now, because there's always going to be some reason why we should put it off. Mm-hmm. There's a vacation, a holiday around the corner. There's a birthday party. There's a whatever holiday around the corner. And that is, many people have that paralysis of analysis. Oh, I'll start at the new year. Oh, I'll start at this date. But the reality is, I find that there's exceptions to that rule of maybe there's a certain date within the next few weeks that's practical for you. But if you're looking at really putting it out in the calendar, I very rarely see people need to do that, because I need you to realize that how are we going to navigate through those times? Because there's always going to be something goes. Yeah. And I would really, what I say is just lean into it. Yeah. You don't have to have it all figured out. Mm-hmm. Because what I find is when you get the ball rolling and people get their head a little bit above water, they want to keep doing the things that make them feel good. Yeah. And they start to realize what I call in the book, and for my patients, I call it food peace and body peace. Because I want people to not come into this wellness thing, whether it improve their energy or improve their digestion or improve their brain health. I want them to see this as a form of self-respect, using self-care as a form of self-respect, because it's the sort of toxic dieting culture that tells us, well, you can't have that. There's a lot of shame around that, right? That's like very much breeding ground for shameflamation. That's the antithesis of sustainable wellness. The genesis of sustainable wellness is really realizing that you get to do things that make you feel good. Yeah. And I said recently on social media that I think is the paradigm shift that I want to say here is that continually eating foods that don't love you back is like staying in a toxic relationship and wondering why you're still miserable. But avoiding foods that don't love you back isn't restrictive, it's self-respect. And that's if you want to talk about the first thing, it's having that pivotal paradigm shift to say, look, I thought it was about all these things I can't have. No, have whatever you want. But I want people to love feeling great more than they thought they were going to miss something that dimmed their light. So from that place of self-respect, I find people make better choices for their life. Because if they, the analogy that I use in the book is like, if you realized you were a Lamborghini and not an old beat up jalopy, how would that impact how you fueled yourself? Owners of luxury vehicles know how to take care of their car. They don't need to be taught that. They're parking it way in the back. Yeah. They are cleaning it. They're fueling it appropriately. Many people see themselves as the old lemon and not the luxury car. And that's the paradigm shift that I want people to have, because then all the rest falls into place. They don't have to be perfect because they just want to continue to pick themselves up, and their why is bigger than their excuses.
That is such a good point. I'm so glad that you went there, because there were a few points there I just want to unpack for everyone. The first was, you said to start with the headspace. And I think that's really powerful. And everyone who's listened to On Purpose right now is already naturally doing that by being here, is because if you're stressed, you eat badly. And then when you eat badly, you get more stressed and you get inflamed, and then everything else that you were saying, then you get more stressed. And it's just this never-ending cycle. And so when you figure out what's going on up here, and then you can start changing what's happening here, it's a great way. So I think that was a fantastic point. The second thing that I really took away from that is this idea of self-respect and how we see ourselves. And it took me a long time to recognize what that really meant personally. So I grew up addicted to chocolate. I ate, and sugar, obviously. So I ate a chocolate bar, a chocolate biscuit, a chocolate yogurt, and a chocolate ice cream pretty much every day while I was a kid. Up until when I went to university, where I would eat a chocolate bar and a liter of Sprite every single day. Like that got me through university. And I was healthy and I was lean and, whatever that meant. And you thought, I'm fine. And then you start to see things not catch up with you, but you start to see the impact of certain things. And I think people still have this in there, well, I just want to have fun. I just want to enjoy life. And I don't want to have to think about this. And I think what's so interesting is what you're saying is that actually isn't enjoyment because it's damaging. And when you start realizing that the fun you're having is actually not fun genuinely for what's happening inside, you just can't see that part.
Yeah.
And I think that took me a long time to connect that it's not like starving yourself from what you want. It's actually like your body doesn't actually want that.
Yeah.
Which takes so long to kind of fix our mind because we're so conditioned to believe that, oh, I love pizza and I love this and I love that. And it's like, well, you don't. You've just been conditioned through your tastes. Like I always talk about one of my friends, their kids look forward to blueberries and grapes as their reward because that's how they've been brought up. Like for them, like blueberries are like Sour Patch Kids.
Right.
Like that's their Sour Patch Kid. Whereas for me, it was Sour Patch Kids, which I still love, which are terrible for me. And I still love them. And when I go to the theaters, my wife really has to and so my wife was the one who helped me change my habits. When she met me, she goes, you can't eat chocolate every day. Like you can't have that. She was like, once a week, you can't have it every day. And it took me ages to, and then we got there and then she replaced it with monk fruit. And I used to eat these cacao nibs sweetened with monk fruit. And now I've got to a point where if I'm at home, I don't remove refined sugars from my diet. And it took a long process. And now I found actually when I go back and have an indulgent dessert, it doesn't taste as good to me. And that was a huge journey for me. I was like, oh, wow, it's not. And sometimes I'll still crave like a burger, a really like juicy fried burger. And I'm plant-based, so I'm talking about plant-based burgers. And when I have it, I'll actually not enjoy the feeling afterwards. I'm like, oh, I actually didn't miss that at all.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that aligns with what you've been saying, but I was just trying to give a very genuine reflection of dealing with a lot of these vices myself.